We're here.
Here we are.
We are here. And this brings us to a moment that we've been very excited to bring to you. It's the first episode of our new format of the show, Sick Boy 2.0, the evolution. And man, I gotta say, like for anybody who's been listening for a long time, you have witnessed us very much grow over the years into what we've become today. It started, if you go back to that very first episode, it's very funny. I listened to it not long ago, and like we had no clue what we were doing. Like it was, but it was so much fun, and we kind of just fell into it naturally, and the whole thing was just such an organic process. And then the show had a bit of a sort of its own evolution when COVID hit. It sort of forced us out of the space of recording with people in studio. I mean, up to that point, like we would never record with someone unless they were in person, because we thought that was what equated to a good conversation, like the human element of being in that space with the person, which there's definitely something to be said for that. But COVID forced us to like start doing virtual recordings, which we found our way, and I feel like we do pretty well.
Thank God for COVID.
I know. Thank God for COVID.
Oh my God.
And then
no, not thank God for COVID, you guys. Thank God in this sense, I suppose.
That's right.
No.
Thank you, God. And that was a cool, interesting, fun like transition, because we went from, at first it was like if you listened to last week's Feel Good Friday, which was our last Feel Good Friday, you will see that the first Feel Good Friday episode was just me, you, and Lauren. We were talking like the world shut down that day, and we were like, well, let's
talk about
it. And then from there we thought, okay, well, this is fun. Let's cover weird fucking wacky shit in the world of health and news, the world of health through the news. And then we're like, but let's also talk to like experts. And we mashed those two together, and we were releasing those once a week. But then we did an episode with like Naheed Dasani to talk about like, his work on going out into the streets and trying to help people who are experiencing homelessness and giving them palliative care, and his like this beautiful work that he's doing. And then we're like, all right, cool, let's cut back to like the studio, and it's just us talking about like cum farts,
cut back to the studio. We were leading into that conversation with Naheed with right. Like how viscous is Jeremy's cum.
Fuck's sakes, yeah.
Literally, like that was. I think that was exactly an
interesting
episode.
Topic.
It is, yeah. but then
science rich.
Yeah, and then we thought, well, maybe these people that are esteemed, smart, physicians, clinicians, researchers, maybe they don't want to tie their life's work to a conversation about like coconut milk cum.
And maybe they do, but just to be safe.
But even if they do, yeah. So we split them up, and that's how routine checkup became a thing. So then we were 3 episodes a week, and that was, it was a lot of work. I remember anytime we tell people we were doing 3 episodes a week, they would think the reaction would always be, "What the fuck?" But it became such a well-oiled machine between the 3 of us that it didn't seem outside the norm. It didn't seem that crazy.
I think we just genuinely love doing it.
Yeah.
So it's easy doing something that you love that much. But
we
also
have so much fun. Yeah.
It makes it hard for like the casual listener to keep up with the amount of content that we're putting out.
So first of all, to all you hardcore listeners, we love you. We fucking love you. And so I want to give you a little rundown on what this evolved version of the show is going to look like. Okay. So if you haven't picked up already, we are going down to 1 episode a week. But those OG Monday recordings that started the whole thing off, those play a very vital role. We want to hear the stories of people who are experiencing illness. We want to try to find the levity that comes with the human experience of being sick or going through hardship. But then those Wednesday episodes, like those are so important because not only do we find it interesting and important to speak to the lived experience, but we also want to know like what's going on behind the scenes from the clinical side. So the physicians and the researchers and the organizations that run, health nonprofit charities, like we want to talk to them too, to get their side. And then of course the Friday episodes is just us being able to dick around, which gives you guys an opportunity to just hang out with us, which we also love doing. So,
and we were putting those episodes on YouTube.
That's right.
Which, I mean, the world knows.
They will.
Because, I mean, the success on you, like wildfire, it caught.
So those three aspects of the show were all very important. And so we decided in this shift to go down to one episode a week, we want to keep all of the three things that make those episodes important and unique. And we want to make sure that we bring those together so that we have that in each of these episodes going forward. So every episode will start with a little preamble, a little banter between us, like you're seeing here. And then the heart of the episode, the majority of the conversation could look one of many different ways. One example is just our OG Monday recordings where we speak to someone who's living with illness or a caregiver or something, of that side of things. Another option would be like our routine checkup episodes. You might just get an episode where we speak to a clinician or a researcher or, somebody under the sphere, like an expert under the sphere of health.
Sometimes we might do both of those things in one episode.
That's right. There might be one where we have two conversations that are isolated and kind of put them together to sort of support one another. And that could look one of many different ways. But the other option, the fourth, is one that we
might just bring them together.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. We're kind of calling it like the Bridging the Gap style episode, where we take two people together and let them kind of drive the conversation. So the example I've been using is like, let's say we get a 25-year-old woman who just got diagnosed with breast cancer and she comes on the show. Well, we pair her up with another guest who's a 65-year-old woman who's a breast cancer survivor. And we let them have a conversation so that the young woman can ask this person who's been through the experience, or the older woman can share the wisdom that she, the things that she wished she knew, and see how that conversation unfolds. And again, that's a format that could look so many different ways. And that's the thing that we're really excited about, is that every one of these episodes is going to be different, but they're all going to kind of contain the things that make all of the episodes that we've been doing so important, just kind of packaging it all together. And here's the part that really that I'm really excited about, is that Feel Good Friday ain't going anywhere.
Best part.
The best part is every episode has its own Feel Good Friday tagged right at the end.
And then it has a long time horizon, and it'll play out over probably the next year and a half or so. But there's a fifth thing that we're bringing into the fold.
Yep.
Which is where we send Brian out.
Yep. Yeah, we're so excited about this.
With a in the field microphone.
Yes.
And kind of has like a Blair Witch kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Very
the microphone is just a dildo.
Like found footage, found audio footage. Yeah. And guys, Brian will go into a bat cave. And he will stay there until he gets bitten and contracts the next world pandemic.
Yeah.
Comes back out into the human population, spreads it in highly populated areas.
Right. You left the part of he's going to be fucking bats. So like he'll let them bite it, but it's about fucking the bats.
Whoa. I thought that I was exclusively allowed to use that for my OnlyFans. I'm pretty sure that's what it said in my contract.
There is a stipulation there that we actually own all rights to the footage, your body, your bodily fluids.
I'll have to get Trevor to look it over.
Okay,
my agent.
So Trevor. I just realized I forgot that this is.
You don't want somebody named Trevor.
This is the preamble.
I forgot that this is the preamble for the first.
That's
episode.
why he overlooked my fucking contract, Trevor.
So again, this is the new format. We're really excited, and to kick this whole thing off, we are bringing to you a conversation that we've been working really hard on over the last few weeks. We've put more work into this episode than maybe any other episode we've ever done in the past. And that's because it has all this amazing shit to it. But here's the thing. The body of this episode is going to contain a conversation that we had with a very, very special guest named Ellie. And this isn't just a normal conversation with someone who's experiencing illness. This is literally an attempt to save someone's life. So this conversation that you are about to hear is with our friend Ellie, who is a nurse, who is a beautiful human, who is also desperately in need of a new kidney. And you listening to this right now, you could potentially be the person that saves Ellie's life. We're going to talk to Ellie about her story, about how she ended up where she is today. And then we will transition into a conversation with somebody from the University Health Network who specializes in kidney donation. And we're going to give you all the info that you need in order to, in the very least, understand how you could make a difference. And this episode is a giant call to action.
It's like a sweepstakes.
It's the telethon.
Where you may be selected.
That's right.
To
save a life.
Save a life.
The greatest gift of all. And so check out the show notes for all the relevant links. If you want to watch the episode, the whole episode is on YouTube, and going forward, there's going to be a lot more YouTube content coming your way. So that's exciting. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the very first Sick Boy Evolved episode, where we have an amazing conversation with an amazing human. So I hope you enjoy.
Welcome.
All right. Well, this is gonna be a real treat, because not only are we diving into a topic that hasn't gotten a lot of airtime on the show over the last 9 years, but we also have the pleasure of doing it with our very close and dear friend that we love very much, Ellie. Ellie is a nurse. Ellie is the best friend of my partner, Kira, former roommate. And
your
Ellie,
former roommate, or Ellie's former roommate?
Just Kira's, yeah.
Okay.
And a dog mom, and an overall just wonderful, beautiful human.
And a lawn bowling champion.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, right. I should say Ellie was the dark horse on the Sick Boy Lawn Summer Nights team, who
championship team,
joined our championship team. We won that year, and all really, I think all due to some clutch maneuvers.
I think so.
That came in from
major ringer.
It was actually
major ringer.
Yeah. But Ellie, we're here to talk about kidney disease, which is something that you've been struggling with for quite a while. And I'll say this right up front. Not only is this an episode for us to get to know a little bit about kidney disease and your experience with it, but this is like a major call to action.
This is the Ellie O'Brien telethon.
This is it. Yeah.
Find me a kidney episode.
This is the Find Ellie a Kidney episode. And I don't say that lightly. I truly actually mean it. I want us to find you a kidney by putting this episode out to the world. And there is a way in which we can increase the odds of that happening, which we will get into when we talk about the kidney paired donation program. But before we get into that, Ellie, hello. Thank you for joining us. Can you please give our listeners a nice little introduction into who you are?
So I'm Ellie. I'm 31. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure. On dialysis that night, it was a total shock. Spent almost a year and a half on dialysis. Then I got my first kidney transplant in 2009. And then I became a nurse. Went to St. FX, became a nurse, and then I spent about 5 years working in the dialysis unit that I was treated in as a patient.
Crazy.
I don't work there now, but I did spend quite a few years.
Now let me
there.
ask, at 16, so you would have been in grade 10?
I was just finishing grade 10.
Okay. When you were in grade 10, prior to, so let's say when you were in, just starting grade 10, did you, at that point in your life, were you beyond the point that everybody else that everybody else had been in at one point, which was thinking that they were going to be a marine biologist? Were you out of that phase and into the phase of tapping into reality and realizing that that's actually not what you want to do, and had a sense of what it was you wanted to do for the rest of your life when you were that age?
Yeah. So I grew up thinking that I wanted to be a teacher because both of my parents are teachers. So up until diagnosis and all that stuff, I didn't like think too much about it, but it was the teacher route for me at that point. Nursing was not a thought.
And did the thought literally occur after your experience with renal failure?
Yeah, 100%.
You went to the hospital and you were like, I love this place.
Well, listen, I remember sitting in the dialysis chair being like, these nurses look so badass and I want to do this.
That is fucking sick.
That's cool.
That is crazy.
I love that.
Cool. Because I feel like the more likely scenario is to be like, maybe likely, but not uncommon, to be in the hospital and just be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I never want to come back
Fuck
here.
everybody here.
Yeah.
I hate it.
That's how I never had the thought of being a healthcare worker in any capacity whatsoever. But if someone had said when I was 16, hey, do you have it? Like, would you have any interest in like getting into medicine? I'd be like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely not. I've spent enough time in those places that I know I don't want to go anywhere near it.
Yeah. Well, shall I say, like acute illness, whereas where I was on dialysis was relatively short-lived. Like I was there for 14 months and then I was transplanted. So once I was transplanted, that was kind of the time where I needed to start taking sciences and doing all that. So like I was well enough that I was kind of over the hump of illness. I wasn't in the hospital all the time. So I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to help people and be the nurse that I needed when I was a patient.
Fuck yeah, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
What was like the lead up to diagnosis? I'm assuming it wasn't like everything's fine and then you go to the hospital and they're like, surprise.
I didn't even realize you had a kidney transplant.
I wish I had that piss blood Nick Cage soundbite queued up right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. What did that look like leading up?
So I was in grade 10. I don't really remember being sick ever in my life. And then probably around Christmas is when I started kind of feeling like basically just like nauseous. I was super cold all the time because I was like anemic and tired, but really just like the nausea and stuff. And then just living. And then we were renovating my mom's house. So we were staying with my aunt at the time and my mom and I were sleeping in the same bed. And I had a night of like just vomiting and I was really short of breath. And my mom was like, this is not normal. And I was like, no, like, yeah, it's been going on for a while. And she's like, no, we're going to the hospital right now. So we went to Emerge. We went to the IWK Emerge because I was 16. They immediately said, you're too old to be here. We're going to ship you over to the QE2.
What? That's 16.
That's 16. Isn't it 18?
What the hell?
Well, I think if you're diagnosed before the age of 16, they'll keep you till you're 18.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they were like, you don't have any history here, so we're going to ship you over to the HI. They did some blood work. I imagine as soon as they took my blood, they were like, this girl's in kidney failure. Yeah. Like, so I was on dialysis that night.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a huge shock.
I've heard dialysis.
Absolutely.
Like every time I've heard about dialysis, I feel like it's always comes with like, this is the worst thing ever. And I don't really know. I don't know much about dialysis, and I don't know what makes it so horrible. So
well, luckily for us,
we have
someone who's been doing it for a minute. I guess firstly, like, what is dialysis? What does that even mean for someone who has no fucking clue?
Like Taylor.
And then what, for you, what was your experience with dialysis over the years?
So there's two types of dialysis. There's peritoneal dialysis and there's hemodialysis. So hemo just means blood. And so that's the one that I'm most familiar with. That's the one I did when I was 16. That's the unit that I worked in. So basically you have a vascular access, so like a catheter in your chest or a fistula in your arm.
Is it specifically a port, like a catheter port, or
it would be the most similar to like a Hickman?
Okay.
So it's outside of your body.
Okay,
it has two lumens, one to draw the blood out and one to return the clean blood.
Okay.
So that one, you take blood out of your body, you sit it through a huge machine. There's what we call a dialyzer, which is basically the kidney. It's a filter. It filters your dirty blood, your blood that's full of toxins. And it also removes excess fluid because your kidneys make urine. So if your kidneys don't work, you don't really make urine. So that's one kind. And then the other kind is peritoneal. That one, I think that one was invented before hemo. And basically you have a catheter in your abdomen. You instill this fluid that is high in sugar. So it's like maybe 1 to 2 liters. You instill it in your abdomen. It sits there. It's called the dwell time. And basically your peritoneal cavity, the lining is semi-permeable. So that acts as your filter. And then the sugar in the fluid that's sitting in your cavity draws all the toxins out of your blood, and it draws the excess fluid in your body, and it all draws into the peritoneal cavity. Jesus. And then you drain it out. And
so
then
it's
you
sort
do
of
that
like
over again.
it does something to basically make another part of your body act like a kidney.
Right.
That's crazy because,
Wow.
like you said, it sounds like it was invented before the hemo type.
I think that was the first type that was invented. Yeah.
Which, like, it sounds crazy to discover the fact that, like, oh, like we could just use this part of your body and
Along with
jerry rig
everything
it
else.
to like be like a kidney. Like, that's insane. Right?
I know. Like, who figured that out? It's
Right?
wild.
Yeah.
I could be wrong here, but I have a vague recollection of either it was through our recording with Chris Hadfield or it was through my work in following him for a documentary project that I did with the National Film Board, where I heard that dialysis was maybe not like dialysis was a direct byproduct, but like where dialysis is today is directly tied to work that was done on the International Space Station. So like dialysis technology was a
Invented
byproduct
by floating astronauts in space.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like they were doing whatever work they do up there, and the reason why dialysis is the way that it is today has a direct tie to NASA, CSA, JAXA.
Now that you mention it, I remember the story because he was saying that it was two astronauts who were floating in space, and one's shirt floated up slightly, and the other one was like staring at them, and they saw their abdomen, and they thought, that could probably be used to process and filter the blood.
And that is the origin story of dialysis.
And then
you heard it
tickled
here
him.
first,
and then he got a tickled belly.
You would never have heard it anywhere
and it was
else.
so. And what I loved about how you recalled that, Brian, was how detailed it was.
Yeah, it was specific.
So what is it about dialysis that is shit? Like what's the shitty thing about dialysis? Why are people like, this sucks hard?
So when we first found out that my kidneys had failed, it was my dad and I in a merge. And at that time I was like, I don't even know what a kidney is. Is it like your appendix? Like you don't really need them? I don't know. And dad just broke down and he's like, you're going to be attached to a machine for the rest of your life.
Oh, God.
And I was like,
wow.
So it's very time consuming. Regular dialysis, like hemo, is usually 4-hour sessions, 3 days a week. PD it's actually kind of like a 24-hour dialysis. You're every 2 to 3 hours you're doing exchanges, or you'll do it for like 10 to 12 hours overnight.
On site.
At home, you can do PD at home.
Okay.
Hemo, most people go in center, but you can also do it at home with extensive training.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's extremely time consuming. Probably like 12 to 15 hours of your week is spent on the machine, plus travel, waiting to get on, getting home. A lot of the time people get something called the dialysis hangover, which is essentially a result of your body's blood composition being changed so quickly and all the fluid coming off in like a 4-hour span, because it's doing what a kidney should do 24/7 in like a 4-hour period. So you just feel terrible,
is
tired,
it like a
run down.
dehydration effect?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, I wanted to come back to the emergency room and getting like first finding out that you were in renal failure. I imagine that's quite a traumatic event, especially going in, not really knowing what's wrong. And then all of a sudden you end up finding out that your kidney's failing you and that you're going to have to do dialysis. Like, what was that experience like?
That was probably the most traumatic moment of my life, obviously. It truly kind of is like a movie where everything is like closing in on you. You kind of have an out-of-body experience, realizing that your life is forever changed. And it's not like this is fixable. Like this is now the rest of your life and everything you know. and everything you thought your life was going to be has completely changed. So there's definitely a lot of like trauma to work through there for sure. But yeah, it's surreal, honestly. And it still feels like that to me today.
This might feel like in a kind of shitty way. I feel like I can relate to that experience. And when my parents told me they were getting divorced, it's like this thing that you know to be true about your life is like, my parents are together and like, this is my family. And then, you know, in an instant when somebody tells you this thing is happening, it's like, oh, forever forward, life is different now because of this. And yeah, I don't know. It's I can relate to it in a sense, but also, you know, like when it's your body and it's something that is like happening to you, I imagine that brings this like other level of complexity and things to it that makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, well, I mean, that whole day was so intense because like not only did I never know one thing about healthcare or like your body, then they're telling you, oh, we need to put this extremely invasive line catheter in your chest, in your main vein. Then we're going to attach you to a machine that's going to take all the blood out of your body and clean it. And there's like people around you. It's just so like invasive. And you're already trying to grapple with all this information that they're telling you. And you get inundated with information that day. And you're only taking in like maybe 10%, if that, like, because you're in complete shock. And they give you a pamphlet about accepting kidney disease. And they basically describe I think it's 5 stages of grief or something.
Right.
And one of them's bartering. And like, I'm not a religious person. I've never gone to church. And I found myself praying to God, being like, I will do anything. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll do this if I just get my kidneys back. So that was wild to read because I'm reading that after I've gone through these stages, and it's just absolutely wild. So
you find out that you're in renal failure. So I guess just like for kind of an overview, like what happens when you go into renal failure? What's biologically what's going on that makes that a bad thing? You know, like, why do you need your kidneys to work?
So the kidneys actually do a lot of different things in the body. They filter your blood, like filter out all your toxins, take out excess fluid. They manage your blood pressure. They manage your electrolyte balance, your pH balance of your blood. They help with bone mass and like protecting your bones with vitamin D and stuff. And they also help regulate your red blood cells.
Okay.
So that's why you become extremely anemic.
Right.
Because you don't have that ability to create red blood cells.
What's anemic? I forget.
Yeah. It's like a low hemoglobin. So it's low red blood cells, low oxygen kind of floating around your body into your tissues and stuff.
And like what effect if you're anemic, what effect does that have on you?
Well, you're freezing all the time. You have bad circulation. It's really hard on your heart because your heart's beating faster, harder to circulate that blood and that oxygen. Yeah.
So you find out, all right, you're in renal failure. Get this fucking girl in for dialysis ASAP. And you're 16. You eventually get a kidney transplant. The dialysis obviously is there to give you some sort of like, you know, external kidney function, since your kidneys aren't going to do the work for you. How much of a role does dialysis play in, like, I guess, like prepping you for transplant? Or, you know, I guess to phrase this differently, when you got on dialysis, were they like, what did they communicate to you? Were they, you know, did they tell you, all right, you're going to be on dialysis until we get you a new kidney? And, you know, this is how long this could take? Or was transplant more of like this is a further down the road thing when things get more serious? Like, when did transplant become, like, when was that put on the table for you?
Right away.
Immediately. It's like, immediately. This just has to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a week in hospital. They were they did biopsies and stuff. Okay. So they never figured out why my kidneys failed, right? Idiopathic, just like, they don't have any idea. They did biopsies, tests, whatever.
Still to this day?
I love how
Still to this
idiopathic
day.
is just, is
We
just
don't
a
know.
fancy word.
It's
for
a
we don't know.
it's technically like it's a diagnosis, but it just means we don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using that. Anytime someone asks me something I don't know, I'm gonna be like, yes, idiopathic.
I think it's idiopathy.
Idiopathic.
So I spend a week trying to figure out if this is acute. So if it's a short-term thing and we can reverse the damage,
Oh, okay.
or is this a chronic, long-term, irreversible thing?
Mm.
So as soon as I had the biopsy, my kidneys were like completely scarred. There was absolutely, I was zero function at that
wow.
point.
Wow.
So they were like, yeah, this is chronic. You're 16 years old. We want to get you a kidney transplant ASAP. Dialysis is sustainable. I mean, you can live 10, 20 years if you take care of yourself, but it's, it drastically shortens your life. It keeps you alive, but it shortens your life. It's so
just
bad
a
for your heart.
Bridge to
It's a bridge.
transplant.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, right away, transplant, I got a binder on what a transplant is. Pretty much like, the first week.
And so how soon did transplant occur?
14 months after diagnosis.
Do you remember
Holy
getting
fuck.
the call?
Yeah. So we did a live transplant, which is the ideal transplant for longevity of the kidney. I think cadavers, I want to say, are average of 10 years. And then a live donor, I think they say about 15 to 20.
And when you say live, obviously you
Mm.
mean alive versus
Yeah.
dead. But does it also mean like they're taking it out of the person and going right into
Right
you?
away.
Like, are you right
Yep.
there? Are they?
They're
They're
not
not-
in the same OR, but
Okay.
she went into surgery maybe an hour before I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you
Crazy.
know the
Wow.
person?
Yeah. So, she was my mom's very, very, very close friend. Normally you'd like a family member to donate just because your genes would be closer. But I unfortunately don't have the same blood type as anyone in my immediate family.
Whoa.
And I had like one cousin or something, but he's much younger than me. So he was a kid at the time.
Would that make rejection? If it's a family member, does that ease the rejection issues?
Yeah, 100%.
So it would
Yeah.
take right. Okay. So rejection, but it doesn't so your point about like a cadaver kidney lasting, 10 years, a live kidney lasting 15 to 20 is a live kidney that isn't a genetic match to you. Does that play a role in the live kidney span of time, or it's more just straight rejection possibilities?
I mean, there are so many possibilities for graft failure, so transplant failure down the line.
Right.
But simply put, a cadaver kidney comes from a dead person. So there's more time maybe without circulation. If it was like brain death, it would be better. But if it's cardiac death, that kidney's not getting blood flow for however long. It might come from far away. So you have time on ice or whatever. So it just in general it's a great option, but it's not the best option. Live donation, where you have the surgery in the same place. You're in ORs next to each other. It literally comes out and 5 minutes later it's in your OR and it's about to go in you. You know what I mean? It's just, the expectations are just way better.
Totally.
Mhm.
So, okay. So you go in for this transplant and, first of all, can we just take a second to appreciate the courage that it takes for a human to recognize and witness somebody that they know and or don't know needs a kidney and says, okay, well, I've got two, so you can have one. That's such a mind-blowing thing to me. I guess before we get into how it went for you, how did it pan out for your mom's friend?
Mm-hmm. Margaret Cody, shout out, love her. She is this amazing woman from Cape Breton. And now I was a minor at the time, so I was not involved in conversations on finding a donor. That was my parents. But from what I understand, Margaret said to my mom, "What can I do?" And my mom said, "You can get tested." And she was like, "Okay." And then we don't hear. So if people are getting tested for me, I don't know, just ethically, if whatever. So we had no idea. We knew she was getting tested, but we had no idea where it was. And then I think 6 months later, Margaret called my mom And to answer your question, Brian, I was like in the dentist waiting room, and my mom got a phone call from Margaret saying, I'm a match.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
And like, I'll forever remember that moment too. And I think the surgery happened maybe 2 or 3 months later, July 21st.
Wild.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way early. What's your blood type?
B.
Okay.
B positive, but for solid organs, the negative positive doesn't matter.
Okay.
What do you need? You need B?
So B or O, because O is the universal donor.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
it's a little more complicated. We'll get to that.
Can I just ask something about blood? I don't know if you know the answer to this, Ellie, but I'm so curious of how our blood types end up being our blood types. Like, I just assumed that there was some sort of like hereditary implications of that, but you mentioned that none of your family members have
Good question.
that.
So my mother is A, and my father is AB, and my brother is AB. So I received the B portion of his AB, and that's how I became B, unfortunately.
Right. Right. Totally.
So
Okay, so
everybody on my mom's side is A, basically.
Right. And
Yeah.
so you can't take AB, you
No.
need B.
Mm-hmm.
It's so specific.
Yeah.
How
And we
wild
have
is
all
that?
this information on a previous episode with
Yes.
the man from the IWK who we talked to about the children's program where he goes in and does
selfie. The
that's right,
selfie program.
Yeah, I know, but
CE.
I can't remember how I got my blood type, even though I asked somebody that. You know when you ask
how
somebody a
you
question,
got
and
your
then-
blood type. Oh,
Yeah,
like
right,
Your
like-
specific blood type.
Well, yeah, I just know like,
I was
and
like,
I also
the
don't
story of your blood type.
totally, yeah, the story of my blood. But I
for
don't know.
people-
I don't know like what my parents' blood type is, but I think I'm A positive.
Yeah. Well, Brian, here's your homework, and for anybody else who's interested, Blood Buddy, hematopathology,
I'm texting my mom
and the
asking her.
Selfie Project is the name of that episode. It came out December 6th of 2023, and we did do quite a bit of a deep dive into blood types and stuff like
He
that.
ran us through all the blood types
Yeah.
and what they mean and positive and negative and all the stuff.
So you're okay. So you're B positive. You need to remain being positive as we move through this.
That was
Wow.
great.
Thanks. And don't be negative, but we will accept be negative, from what I'm gathering. So you go through this process. What was the transplant experience like for you? And let me just ask this first. This is currently the only time you've ever had a kidney transplant.
Yes,
Okay.
that was my one and only.
So that one time,
So far.
what was that experience like?
Honestly, it was not bad at all for me. Like I think I was just feeling so terrible that as soon as that kidney went in, like even though I was recovering from a major surgery, you just feel like a new person. So for me, I was also 16, so you know,
Sure.
your recovery is not too bad. But everything was seamless. I had no complications. Margaret did amazing. I think she was in for 2 days. And now she lives overseas teaching and vacationing and whatever. So yeah, for me, I think I was in hospital for maybe 8 days. They pump you full of fluid and prednisone, so that makes you a little bit crazy. But yeah, I think adjusting to the drugs, the anti-rejection meds, is probably the worst part of it.
Okay.
That's very intense.
And how so?
Well, you're on immunosuppressants. There's 3 main, I think each immunosuppressant drug kind of works with different parts of the immune system. So prednisone, which is a steroid, is a huge one, and that's like an anti-inflammatory. And then there's 2 other ones, Cellcept and Tacro, are very popular. So they all come with side effects and things that you need to get used to. And obviously your levels kind of at the start are higher, and then they kind of taper you down like during the first year mostly. So for prednisone, they mess with your moods, basically.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
make, well, yeah, if anyone's
I've
ever been on
I
prednisone.
actually love prednisone,
Oh,
but I've only done prednisone for
Short
like
stints, yeah.
short stints, big blast,
Yeah.
7 days, and I'm like
and it
this give me more of this motherfucker.
Wait,
Like,
wait,
it's-
why? What does it do for you?
Oh man, I mean, speaking of mood, like it blasts my mood up to this like stratosphere. I'm so happy.
Makes you be positive.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
And I think it gives you energy.
Gives you energy.
Yeah.
You're fucking like you are dialed in. You want to like get shit done.
Turns all your bad feelings into good feelings.
That's right. Yeah, and non-habit forming.
That's good.
Also the other part that I loved about it when I was younger was that I would gain a bunch of weight, which was really hard for me. But that I know that's not something that most people enjoy. Okay, so one other thing that I just want to like really make clear here that you said and make sure that we put this out there, because again, we're trying so the line is open, 1-800 give us your fucking kidney. You can call. The telethon is happening. If you want to give your kidney, call that number. And by call that number, I mean actually just email us, info@sickboypodcast.com, because that number doesn't exist. But the thing that I want to make clear here is that you said that, was it Mary? Margaret, sorry. Margaret.
Mary
was-
Margaret.
Mary
Could be the
Margaret.
same-
Yeah,
the same
yes.
thing.
People are named that.
Cape Breton. Margaret was in hospital for 2 days.
2 or 3.
2 or 3 days, sure.
Way shorter than me.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, it's laparoscopic.
Simple.
Like I know in the past, there's been a lot. It was harder for the donor than it was the recipient back in the day, because before laparoscopic surgery was invented, I think they had to take out a couple ribs
Totally.
to
Yeah.
get the kidney. That's long since been over.
Oh.
So for her, it's laparoscopic. There's like 3 little
Right.
incisions.
Well, that's
And
kind of a shame. I guess like one of the upsides is like you could suck your own dick if you were.
they put them back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Never
they
mind.
just
I
take them
think.
out. They just-
All right. Well, then
yeah.
I mean that's just
I
that's
bet.
just
Yeah.
a pain in
I
the ass.
just-
then.
It turns
I
out that whole story about Marilyn Manson having
he
his
just-
ribs removed,
he just
he was
gave
just
his kidney.
donating his kidney.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
He's actually
so
just doing a very good deed.
that's so laparoscopic. That's very fascinating. Is it like is the kidney like a rat? Like it can just like it doesn't need much space to slip out of there.
That's what
For
I
sure.
think of when I
I
think
honestly,
of laparoscopic
I don't
surgery.
know. I think the incision where the kidney actually comes out is,
Might be a little bit longer.
I think it's a
to-
little bit
right,
longer,
sure,
maybe
sure.
like right above your belly button,
Right.
maybe like,
And the upside to that
5
is you have a
inches?
cool
I don't know.
a cool scar on
Yeah.
your belly that you can get a tattoo around and make a smiley face or something like that. So that's cool. Cool. Just want to make sure people are like realize that
There's so
giving a
many
kidney
pros.
is actually super cool
Yeah.
and fun. Okay, so
but like in all seriousness, it is fucking cool. Like to
it
be able
is
to
cool.
I
Yeah.
I imagine that like if
course.
you donated your kidney and you knew that you helped someone stay alive,
Yeah,
like that must be a good feeling.
totally.
Like that must be something that you carry with you for the rest of your life and can be proud of.
Oh, I have a question. When you get a new kidney, I'm assuming your two kidneys are fucked. So like it's like they both need to be thrown away, but you're just getting one, right?
yeah, well, they actually keep them in unless they're causing problems. So when you get a kidney transplant, you end up having 3 kidneys.
Whoa,
No.
they keep
Oh.
all 2.
Oh,
Yeah, unless
Whoa.
you have like
What's the plumbing look
polycystic
like?
kidneys, and then if they're like getting infected or causing pain or whatever, they'll take them
Wow.
out. But for me, they were like shriveled. They're
Oh,
non-existent.
okay. So
Wow,
they just
fascinating.
put the new one in and like connect the piping and
Yeah,
Cool.
that's exactly.
Oh,
That's
wow.
very cool.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
nuts.
I want to dive into so let's do a little bit of like a fast forward.
Mhm.
You had this kidney. Things seem to be going good. For how long?
Things went really well all through school. So when I started nursing and everything, probably up until 2017, I ended up with this virus called CMV that actually lies dormant in most people's bodies. And my donor was actually CMV positive. It's super common in that generation, like the boomers. Most of them have it. So I was CMV negative when I was transplanted, but then she transplanted me her kidney, which came along with the CMV. So that's something that they monitor really closely and actually medicate you for early on after transplant, like probably a year. And so I never had any problems with this until about 8 years post-transplant. And it's kind of like, it just made me feel generally unwell, fever. I had a lot of like stomach problems and stuff. And I had a really hard time clearing that virus, probably a year I was on antivirals. And they were like, it's so uncommon to see somebody 8 years post have this come up.
Right.
But that's me. I'm uncommon. I'm rare, whatever. So that's kind of when things started not going downhill, but it wasn't all perfect.
Red flags. Yeah.
So my white blood cells went super low with that virus. And so they actually took me off one of my immunosuppressants, Cellcept, that I think affects like your white blood cells and stuff. So they took me off that for quite a while so that I could clear the virus. And then I had this kind of underlying cervical dysplasia that I had been diagnosed with a year after my transplant. So that's basically you have these precancerous cells on your cervix, and it's extremely common. But if you have a working immune system, it usually clears itself. But because I did not, it stayed. It got worse. It got better. It got worse. It got better. It was just kind of lingering around. And then around maybe 2017, 2018, it was high grade. So
Right.
It went from low grade, medium grade to high grade. And so that basically was the level before it became cancerous. So at that point, they kind of came back again on my immunosuppression. They took me off this drug and I never went back on it, the Cellcept. So ultimately, they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. They don't want to over immunosuppress me and allow the cancer to flourish, but they don't want to under immunosuppress me and cause me to go into rejection. So I walked that line for a lot of years.
Wow.
And in 2021, I think we realized in the blood work that my kidney the function was starting to decline. And then we did a biopsy in early 2022, and they basically said, your kidney is too far gone. There's too much scarring. We think it's chronic rejection from being under immunosuppressed from the cervical dysplasia situation. Right. So
did you know at that point, like, did you feel that going into that, or was that like out of left field?
So you can lose 50% kidney function and have no symptoms.
Wow.
Even more so, I would say.
Wow.
Depending on like your health otherwise. So I had no idea. And I'm obviously getting routine blood work like every 3 months at that point. So they kind of were like, yeah, like it's creeping up, your creatinine's creeping up. We're going to do a biopsy. We're going to see what it says, and then we'll go from there. And then I did the biopsy in I think March 2022, and they said, it's too far gone. There's nothing we can do. So we're going to ride this kidney out until it fails. And then we will relist you for another transplant.
On the cervical dysplasia, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they can't go in and like scrape those away.
I had probably, I want to say 5 laser surgeries, laser procedures, and it would be gone, and then it would come back. It's actually a little bit more intense than a leap. So I actually had to go to OR and be sedated or go under anesthesia and stuff. After a year of being immunocompromised, it popped up and they were like, oh yeah, like we'll just watch it, but usually it goes away, like not to worry.
Okay.
And then so I was seeing him like every 6 months and it just like wasn't going away. So I've been living with it, but like it doesn't affect you in any way. It's just kind of there. And then until it gets almost cancerous. And then they're like, all right, we really need to like do something about this. So in 2002, in about October, my kidneys were at maybe like 7%. So I started dialysis. I started PD. And in December, they took out my transplanted kidney so they could take me off all the immunosuppression so my immune system could come back and get rid of the dysplasia. Mm-hmm. So that happened really quickly, like within a few months, everything was fine. And that's kind of where we're at now, where the dysplasia is gone, everything's good in that department. So now we're looking at transplant again.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And that's the current situation, mm-hmm. But correct me if I'm wrong, because, being the fact that you are best friends with Kira and, I'm close to this hearing, mm-hmm. talking to her. There's been like some more developments specifically around the transplant, the requirements for your transplant, correct? It's not just as simple as like, oh, you're B positive, then let's be positive together and do this surgery. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit more behind it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So unfortunately, when you come off your immunosuppression and you've had a transplant, even though they took out the transplanted organ, there was always a risk of microscopic tissue being left behind and coming off the immunosuppression, my immune system then saying, this is foreign tissue. I'm going to attack it and I'm going to start creating antibodies to this donor tissue. So it's called donor-specific antibodies, DSA. So the whole point of taking the kidney out was to avoid this, but there was always the chance that this would happen. So I am now at 99.6% sensitized, which is very unfortunate. It makes it very, very, very hard to find a match. And for almost a year, I was reading 0% antibodies. And then all of a sudden, like this past November, I spiked up to 80% and then 99%.
Which
so
just means
we don't
that
know
you're
why.
you're like at a really high risk of
Rejection.
of not accepting a new.
Yeah. Like they would never, you can do preliminary blood work and that's part of the matching process to see if you would reject a specific donor. So like they would just never do the transplant if you're at risk of rejecting that kidney.
Right.
So it just makes it extremely hard to find a match.
In what way though? Like what do you need beyond the blood type matching then?
So the other part of it is HLA antibody testing. So some people have antibodies to random things in their blood. Like when you get a vaccine, you create antibodies to that illness that you're getting vaccinated against. So people have antibodies. Now, I'm not an expert, but this is my understanding. They have antibodies in their blood.
Do your own research.
And my antibodies might not match with your antibodies and they would fight each other. So if you donated your kidney to me and our antibodies don't go together, then that's going to reject. So there's also that when you're talking about matching for a kidney transplant. And so I just have so many that it's just very rare that I would find a compatible donor.
So like how, I mean, do you have any sense of like how rare that person would be? Like how many antibodies are there?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Do they talk to you about it at all?
Do they have different names?
Probably. I don't know.
Name them all
You'd
right
have
now.
to ask the HLA expert. So from what I understand, so I got a phone call from my nephrologist, my kidney doctor in December, and she said, you are at 99.6% antibodies. So I want to say that means that I won't, in very simple terms, I won't match with 99.6% of the population.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
but there's also like different genetic makeup. So I have very common genes for this part of Canada or this part of the world. So there's also that. So it's not like so cut and dry.
Yeah. We're gonna get in touch with an expert to get a little bit more in depth on this stuff. So stand by for that. But before we get down that road, there's two things that I want to cover here before we wrap with you. One is I want to talk about the kidney paired exchange program, which is something that's new to me and blowing my mind right now. Very cool. But even before that, I just want to talk about, where you are at this point in your life, specifically like your age, which is like, you're in your 30s, you're a young 31-year-old. But this is also like kind of a pivotal point in people's lives, especially when it comes to making like really big decisions about the future of your life, whether that pertains to kids or, decisions with your partner, or whatever that might be. So where are you at with that side of things? How does this play? Are you interested in having children one day? If so, how does this play a role in that? Like what are the things that are crossing your mind right now in this crossroads of very, very desperately needing a kidney to survive, but also needing a kidney to be able to do the things that you want to do over the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah. So I always told myself that I didn't want children because I found out about this when I was 16. And then I kind of just went through my 20s being like, yeah, I don't really need kids. And then something happens when you turn 30 or 30-ish and you're settled down and you have a partner that you love and people around you are starting to have kids and you're like, oh, maybe that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last couple of years, that's kind of been a big theme in my life is like, will I be able to have kids? And kidney transplant patients can have children. They are automatically a high-risk pregnancy and have to work closely with physicians and OBs and whatever, be monitored extremely closely.
You get such good care when you're high risk. It's fucking nice.
Okay, amazing. So that is, like I'm here looking at my timeline. Okay, I'm going to be 32 in April. How long is it going to take me a kidney? They say it could be up to 5 to 7 years. Okay, I'm going to be 37, 38. Like that is a huge thing for me right now. And I think I'm going to freeze my eggs because I definitely want to have the option, even if I'm almost 40. I don't know. Like I definitely want children. So like that's something that I'm thinking about. And it's so hard because I'm here fighting for my life and everybody around me is like, should we have children? Like, and obviously that's not a light subject for everybody, but it's like, oh, I just wish, like, what would I be doing in my life right now if I didn't have this? If I wasn't, just trying to survive every day.
To the point of like these types of decisions that are kind of a two-way conversation between you and also your partner. I would love to just hear like, because I know that especially over the last like year, things have been like really tough. Especially when it pertains to like going out and being social and like doing things for yourself. So I'd love to just hear like how Keegan, your partner, awesome, amazing, human and fucking complete badass, front lead singer of the incredible hardcore band Botfly. Fucking go see them if you're in your town, if you want to get a black eye and sweat your balls off. How has Keegan, how has this had an effect on Keegan? How has this had an effect on your guys' relationship? And how has Keegan been in terms of like a support system for you? Like what kind of role has he played in holding your hand through all of this?
Yeah, that's such a nice question that you asked. I appreciate that. Keegan and I knew each other when we were 14 years old. And so he's always known this about me because when you're getting into a relationship, like, and you have a chronic illness, it's kind of tricky when you're going to tell them and what they're going to think and la-di-da-da. So we already knew each other and we kind of just like reconnected a little bit during COVID. So that was never a conversation that I had to have. He knew that already about me. So like tick right there, that was great. And he, things really started going south like maybe a year and a half into our relationship. So like it was still new. And I mean, he has been amazing the entire time, like more supportive, more understanding than I could ever expect anyone to ever be. I know it's hard on him because he's like my rock, my support system. And, sometimes I have to check in on him and be like, how are you handling this? Because like I've been dealing with this for over half my life, but like, how are you? So, I mean, we just communicate amazingly and he's never, ever, ever made me doubt anything about myself or about our relationship. And if anything, it just like makes us stronger.
I mean, I've had the pleasure of spending a little bit of time with Keegan and it shows. He's a really solid guy.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you're not in this alone because I can imagine that would be a hell of a lot harder. And so kudos to you, Keegan, if you're listening to this, because a really, really amazing human.
Stamp of approval.
I'm also just a fanboy of Botfly. So that's the only reason I'm saying it, just to get some fucking street
cred. We can just flood the comments with we love Keegan. Yeah. That'd be really great.
Okay, so let's really quickly just talk about the kidney paired exchange program. Okay, so I'll lay this out for you guys. This is what I learned from it. So there is a program that exists called the Kidney Paired Donation Program.
Is that the program where you go and spend some time like overseas and do some time, and then you get to come back with these great new fresh experiences? And
Yeah, kind of like how they discovered dialysis on the.
Yeah, actually, I looked that up. Totally false. So,
not surprising.
And also, Brian, totally false. Not that.
Yeah.
So the Kidney Paired Donation Program is it's a part of the process. It's a process that can help increase the chances of someone like Ellie receiving a kidney that is a match for her. So typically, when someone is in need of a kidney, you would look at your like close sort of network, like the first time you got your kidney. So it's like, okay, you know, Ellie's mom has a friend. It's a match. Let's fucking go.
it's like a multi-level marketing thing.
Yeah. So that's directed donation.
That's yeah. You nailed it on that one.
Now,
For real.
if Ellie has people in her life that want to support her and are like saying, look, Jeremy, if I'm a match, I will give you a kidney 100%. And so we go and we do the test, and it turns out that we as a pair are as directed donors are not compatible, then I can say, all right, well, fuck it. I will also.
Taylor and I are also a pair.
Right, sure. So I will say I will also add myself to the Kidney Paired Donation Program. Okay, so let's say you and I, Brian, we
We're
test
donors.
and we're not a match. Well, you and I can go, all right, well, let's add ourselves to this program. So as a pair, you add yourselves to the Kidney Donation Program, and let's say we found like a chain of like 6 other friends that were also willing to give their kidney, and one of those 6 were a match. Sorry. So you have 6 people, 6 pairs, and you bring those pairs together. You find out that one of them is a match for
One of the other pairs.
Okay, for fuck's sakes, let me just shut the fuck up and let me say this. So you've got Ellie needs a kidney, and I am going to go into this program with Ellie because she needs a kidney. And let's say Taylor needs a kidney. You
Here
will
we go.
also
Yeah.
pair up with Taylor because he needs a kidney.
Yep.
But you are not a match to Taylor. But Brian is a match to Ellie. Then you would give Ellie your kidney. And let's say I was actually not a match for Ellie, but I am a match for Taylor. I could give Taylor my kidney. So you could do that with a group of like, you know, a chain of 6 or 4, 5, 6 pairs of people.
But there's no sexual component to it whatsoever.
You don't have to touch anyone. There's nothing involved like that.
Right. And
Now-
so like if we did it as 3 pairs, and like you and Ellie were a pair and Taylor and I were a pair,
Yes.
and then we had another pair, but like I was a match with Ellie and you were a match for the other pair,
Yeah.
and the other person was a match for Taylor,
Yes.
then like 3-way,
3
we
people.
all sort
Yes,
of like
exactly.
do it, because like the odds of like
Yeah.
a pair being a direct
Yeah,
match with another
exactly.
pair is lower.
That's right.
So
Mhm.
if you chain them together, it
Yeah.
increases the
Now-
odds.
Daisy chaining.
Got it.
Let's
Daisy
scale
chaining
that.
pairs.
Let's scale that out even further. So when you decide to do this program, you enter with, you know, whatever the chain is. But let's say no one's a pair at all. Well, you all get placed into the National Kidney Pair Donation Program,
Pay it forward.
and you pay it forward. And let's say that there are 500 pairs in that chain. Then it just increases the odds of the trickle down effect of everybody finding a kidney. And so this is what spurred this conversation, this episode, was to try to get as many people as we can
In Ellie's chain.
to create the world's largest chain of kidney donors.
Well, so
Did I fuck that up?
no, you were pretty good, but I
All right,
just want
thanks,
to
yeah.
add,
It took a while.
normally it's just like me and you would go into the program as
Yeah.
a pair,
Yes.
and then we would go into this nationwide database. And then like it's just usually one person donating on my behalf. But because I'm so highly sensitized and it's so unlikely that I will find a directed match, So they are going to be putting multiple people in, like, they'll be putting their blood work and their information into the database so that I have a larger chance of one of the people in my corner being a match with somebody else.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah. So
but normally it's just like me and another person.
A pair. Okay, got you. Yeah. Okay, so with that, knowing that exchange program exists, what we want to do is put the information out there for anybody who is like, whether they know somebody who needs a kidney or they fucking don't, because you can also enter this as someone who does not have a pair, a non-directed anonymous donor, an NDAD. And if you are someone out there who's like, I would love to just put myself out there to donate a kidney, you can do that. And so the next portion of this conversation is going to be unpacking that to undo what I just did.
Yeah.
Which did not help.
It's going to be so much more clear.
And redo it so that we really have a grasp on what that program is, but also really like unpack all of the things that somebody who's interested in donating a kidney should think about. Because if you feel like you are someone that could do this, even if you're donating or pairing with somebody in Alberta and you don't know Ellie, your kidney could literally save Ellie's life.
Ellie's more than just a person. Ellie's a symbol.
Yeah.
Like Batman.
Totally. Let's put that kidney symbol up in the air.
Let's fucking blast that light out.
Ellie, what's the biggest thing that you would say your experience with kidney disease has taken away from you?
Interesting question. I would say generally it has taken away my ability to ever feel carefree or just carefree in general in any situation, because I always am having a million things on my mind, whether I'm transplanted or not. There's always this, what if, can I do this? Can I do that in the back of my mind? What's safe for me to do? So I've never lived a carefree life since diagnosis. I've lived, a great life during transplant time. I did a lot of things that got me through my 20s, nursing school, my career, but I've never kind of been able to let go fully.
What would you say is the biggest thing that it's given you?
Probably a lot of empathy for others. And it gave me my nursing career, it shaped who I am today and how I interact with the world. And I think that's an amazing thing. Yeah.
We think you're an amazing person. And to know that this experience that you wouldn't wish upon anybody in the world was also the experience that led you to dedicating your life to being a nurse, which, I think I can speak for all of us when we say that nurses are hands down like the most important fucking part of the structure of the healthcare system. And if it wasn't for nurses, not a fucking single thing would get done. And they are highly underappreciated and undervalued.
But overpaid.
Overpaid. Yeah, I wasn't going to say it. You said it. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get my ass kicked when I go home. Because Kira's here right now. But for real, like underpaid, underappreciated, undervalued. And to know that this experience is something that drove you to do that work, to be there for people who were in the same position that you were in when you were 16, is just one of the many things that make you such an incredible human. And this is precisely the reason why we wanted to do this episode right now, is to ensure that we get to keep you for as long as we possibly can, because you're such a valued and appreciated and important human. So thank you for taking time to come and sit down and hang out with us and share your story. And thank you too for possibly, playing a role in somebody out there finding a kidney, even through just like spreading the awareness that this program exists. And yeah, we really appreciate you doing this. So thank you.
Thank you guys. You were so nice.
Okay. That was a lovely conversation with Ellie. I feel like I have her whole life story in my mind, but I'm still left with a number of questions. And so I'm honored to be sitting down with Candace today from the University Health Network, who's going to, I hope, give me a little bit of insight into some of the stuff that we were trying to cover with Ellie that's outside of her personal story. And so, Candace, first of all, thank you so much for taking your time today to sit down with me. And secondly, before we get into the questions, please just take a moment to introduce yourself to all of our listeners.
Sure. My name's Candace, like you said. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator at the Center for Living Organ Donation at University Health Network. And I'm also a kidney transplant recipient myself, so have been through this journey and have lived with a chronic illness since I was very young, and did 2 types of dialysis. So I did both hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. And then my mom stepped up and she was my living donor September 2009. So have been living almost 15 years now with this wonderful kidney. And it also gave me the opportunity to have a very healthy baby girl 3 years ago.
Oh. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Secondly, I love that I can say that I know about the 2 types of kidney dialysis.
Yes.
Shout out to Ellie, who so gracefully told us about that. And then thirdly, what the fuck is going on? What's the deal with kidney transplant patients all of a sudden finding themselves in a world where they are trying to, trying to change the lives of people who are requiring things like dialysis or are in need of a new kidney? Is it like, so Ellie told us that she became a nurse because of her experience with her transplant. Are you in the same boat? Like, did you go into this line of work? Oh my God, what the fuck?
Exactly that. Yeah, I was working in nonprofit and, got shot into this world of dialysis and transplant. And it's such a black hole. It feels like there's not enough resources or information for patients, or even, just to find somebody else who's going through something similar to you. And so I wanted to go into this in the education side of things, just to, not only be able to provide that education for people, but then also be able to say, I know what you're going through on some level. So, please tell me how I can help you.
Unbelievable. I love this. Okay, well, I think this sets us up well. Not only because you are someone who has lived experience, but also because you are someone who knows the ins and outs of the nitty-gritty details when it comes to kidney transplantation. And so my goal here is to get a really clear understanding of the kidney paired exchange program. It's something that I didn't know about until my conversation with Ellie. It's something that I think is miraculous.
Yes.
What an unbelievable program. And so, and also I think it's something that not a lot of people really know exists. So, I guess, I completely fucking butchered the kidney paired exchange program explanation when I was talking to Ellie. Maybe you can give me an overview. Like, what is the kidney paired exchange program? How does it work? And who are the types of people that can step up to take part in this program?
Absolutely. So the kidney paired donation program is run through Canadian Blood Services, and it is a program where people who have living donors who may not be compatible with them, so they're eligible to donate, but they don't match that person that they want to donate to. They go into this program, and, to make it sound simple, we often call it a kidney swap. So I would go in with my potential donor, you would go in with your potential donor, and we would go into a system. We'd be registered with the Canadian Blood Services. And what they do about 3 times a year is they do a cross match across the country to see if donors could donate to waiting recipients, and they swap kidneys. So there's been chains that have been really long. So we're talking, 4 or 5 groups of people who have swapped kidneys. And then there's been closed loops where it may just be 2 pairs. So there's 2 ways that the program can happen. One of them is a direct donation. So that's where, let's say, 3 groups of people go in, 3 pairs, and they all swap kidneys. And so when we say swap, we mean a donor in BC may donate to a recipient that they'll never meet in Ontario. And then a donor in, Halifax may donate to a person in Alberta that they'll never meet. And so all of those transplants happen. And they make sure that everyone is healthy enough to do this and that those chains happen. The other way that it can happen is kind of a more open chain. So there are people that we call altruistic donors or anonymous donors. And there's somebody who steps forward who doesn't have a recipient in mind. So there are these just amazing people who want to donate. And they step in and say, I have an extra kidney. I'm healthy. I want to donate. And so that puts one kidney into a chain, and that can kick off a chain. And then there's a kidney at the end that is extra, right? Because it's an uneven number of kidneys. And then that kidney goes to somebody who's waiting on the wait list. So, there's an extra kidney at the end of it, which is remarkable that there are these people who donate just to donate, right?
Yeah. I mean, as someone who, I don't think I would be able to donate considering that I have cystic fibrosis. But even if I could, there's a part of me that loves the idea of like stepping up to do something that could literally save someone's life. But it's an idea that's a little bit scary.
For sure.
And I think that's totally valid and totally understandable. But also I feel like perhaps there is an aspect to that comes from a place of ignorance or maybe a place of like lack of understanding. And so I guess my next question would be, for folks who are out there who are in the same position as me, except they are, someone who has a kidney that isn't potentially riddled with, I don't know why someone with CF couldn't donate a kidney, but let's just say someone who's healthy, typically healthy, and could step into that, but they have those sorts of like fears. What are some of the things that you would say to those people, not to sway their decision, but just to give them the information so that maybe they make a more informed decision, and that decision being that, oh, this isn't right for me, or, oh, you know what, actually, it's not as scary as I think it is. What are things that people need to consider when thinking about donating, whether that's to someone that they love or to a complete stranger, just out of the kindness of their heart?
So we go through a very vigorous process when evaluating our donors. So if somebody steps up and they decide that, yes, this is something I'm interested in, it is not just, great, thank you for your kidney, we'll pop you into surgery. So it starts with an application form. It's a 12-page application form that they have to go through. They fill out their health history. They provide proof of their blood type as well. And then our coordinators look through that application and they look for signs that may show that donor might not be healthy enough to donate a kidney, or it might not be safe for them to donate. So things like high blood pressure or diabetes, active cancers, maybe a family history of kidney disease. So those types of things that the coordinators will look through and let that person know, you know what, this might not be safe for you to donate. But let's say they look at those application forms and everything looks good. They go on to a process of testing. So there's a couple rounds of tests that they go through, and these tests include things like ultrasounds of the kidney. They'll get x-rays. They'll do a lot of blood work. They'll also do a lot of urine tests because, as we know, the kidney is our pee producer. So they want to make sure that they have really healthy kidneys. And I tell people too, the donor side of things is completely separate from the recipient side. So those two sides don't connect. They don't know what's happening with the workup process. Recipient teams is in charge of making sure the recipient is safe enough to go through the process. And the donor team is responsible in making sure that they're healthy enough physically to go through the process, but then also that they're in a place mentally that they feel like they're doing this because they want to do it. They're not being coerced in any way. And also they have the means to do it. So are they able to take time off work to go to all of these appointments for their tests? Are they able to take time off work for the recovery period as well? Because once you donate a kidney, you need about 6 to 8 weeks to recover from that before you can go back to work.
Sure.
So there's all of these things that we want to make sure that the donors are safe and healthy enough to do it. before they go through that process. And so it's a very in-depth, vigorous process that these donors go through to make sure they're healthy enough to go through this process and then live the rest of their lives with only one kidney.
Right. Okay, so what I'm taking from that is 6 to 8 weeks to recover is basically 6 to 8 weeks where you just don't even have to go to work.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, like, sold. Sign me up, you know? That's amazing. Thank you for that. And I guess the other thing that I was kind of curious about is, you know, from someone who is so deeply involved in this world of kidney donation, I'm sure that you are familiar with some of like the misconceptions that exist out there when it comes to kidney donation. What are some of those misconceptions? Like, what's the general view on specifically kidney donation, and maybe some things that you've heard that, like, you know what, it's not actually like that.
Mm-hmm. So the first one, of course, is we're always all afraid of a major surgery and what could happen to us. So a lot of people think that is kind of a death sentence for somebody to go and have a major operation like that. And we've never had any deaths at UHN of our living donors. There are small complications that happen, similar to other surgeries. So, you know, if people have ever had their gallbladder removed or had appendicitis, similar to that, it is a major surgery. So like I said, there is time that you have to recover. But generally, our donors do very well. Some of them are out of hospital actually in 2 to 3 days, which sounds kind of crazy. Like, thank you for your organ. You can you can go home now. But donors do very well. And I think the main reason why they do so well and why they recover so quickly is because they're the healthiest people that we can find, right? These people are very healthy. They're able to donate because we've gone through that process of making sure that it's safe for them. And then the other thing that, you know, we hear a lot about is that you can't live with one kidney. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, my mom donated her kidney 15 years ago, and the only way you would ever know is by looking at her scar. You know, people who donate live very healthy, normal lives, and that remaining kidney kind of just takes over the slack and kind of works overtime and takes care of the body in that way.
Okay, so again, my takeaway there is not only donating a kidney, would that leave you with a knowing that you are truly an angel in someone's eyes and saving someone's life, but it's also an indicator that you are the epitome of health.
Exactly.
So if you really want to know if you are, like, you know, in the top 99 percentile of healthy people on the planet, you might as well just give your kidney up, and then that's the certificate, right?
Yes.
Wow, you're really selling me on this. So the other thing that I want to just kind of run over with you before we wrap is something that Ellie had mentioned was that she's in a position right now where she has 96% antibodies, donor specific antibodies. Is that correct? DSA. And she mentioned HLA antibody testing. So, like, what are antibodies? What is, like, the HLA antibody testing? What does this mean for Ellie in terms of, like, her, you know, her chances of finding a donor? Because that's just a part of it that's a little bit over my head.
Yeah. So the easiest way to explain it is basically we have antibodies, which are kind of like these things that are going to fight against intruders. And so when you think about a kidney transplant, it's something that's coming from somebody else into our bodies. So it's a foreign object. It doesn't belong to us. And so when you have high antibodies, that means that you have a higher chance of really fighting that kidney hard and your body not wanting that kidney in your body. So different things can give you higher antibodies. One of the things, like you mentioned, Ellie's had a past kidney transplant, so that means her antibodies will be higher. Things like pregnancies make your antibodies higher, or something like blood transfusions. And the reason why is because those are foreign things in our body that our body has had to fight. So we've had to fight those things, and so we have higher levels of antibodies. And so that means when we go to try to get a new kidney, we have had all of these other things happen in our body. And so when that new kidney comes in, it's got a lot more kind of warriors in our body who are looking to fight it off and get rid of it. So when we're looking to match a new kidney into our body, it's a lot harder to match for those of us who have had prior transplants or pregnancies or blood transfusions, because we have all of these other people's antibodies in our body as well.
Okay.
So it just means that it's harder to find a match. It's harder to find somebody who would be a good candidate for us. And, it doesn't mean that it's impossible at all. We have people who are 98%. So it means the majority of people out there couldn't donate to that person because their body would fight that kidney off. But that's
Right.
where that kidney paired donation program comes in, because what happens is that we have all of Canada to look at for kidney transplants. So rather than just having my mom as my potential donor, or my dad or my brother, we get to look all across Canada. So we take, let's say my mom and I, we go into the program, and then that program has algorithms that can then match who's the best person to give that kidney to Ellie. So instead of her having to find that person, she goes in with a donor and the system finds it for her.
Right. Okay. Firstly, I just want to say, as an education and outreach coordinator, you seem to be doing an incredible job. So
Thank you.
I hope your boss is listening. Candace is crushing it, and give this woman a raise.
Thank you.
Because you not only did you answer all the questions that I had about the things that I was curious about, but I feel like you really answered them in a way that is very digestible and very easy to just integrate. And so thank you so much for that. Before we let you go, say somebody out there is listening to this and they've been touched by Ellie's story, and they themselves want to put themselves into this pool. Where can they go? What should they do?
So depending where you are in the country, you can definitely donate from any province. You would contact Ellie's healthcare provider. So I believe you said she was in Halifax. So they could reach out to the Nova Scotia Health Authority and say, and contact the transplant unit there and say, I am interested in donating to Ellie. I want to learn more about the process. This is my blood type, and I'm interested in learning more. And anyone across the country can be part of this. They would go through testing depending on where they live. If they are in Halifax, they can do testing there. But if they are in a different province even, they can do some of their testing at their home centers as well. If they are in Toronto, they can go to uhnTransplant.ca, and they can take a look at all of the resources on that website. There's videos, there are manuals, all of that type of thing that if they're not quite ready to give the transplant unit a call, they can at least go and take a look at that. They can also check out our YouTube page at Give Life UHN, and there's tons of videos on there, as well as greatactions.ca. There are videos of people who have been through this process, both as a recipient and donor. And also they can always reach out to us, livingorgandonation@uhn.ca, and ask questions. And that's what I do every day. I answer questions for people who are interested in being a donor. Also recipients who might be, nervous about the process, they can reach out as well. And to anybody, even thinking about becoming a living donor, whether they fill out that application form, go through the process, or donate, they are, like you said, angels on earth. They're literally saving a life and giving us our lives back. And, I'm a testament to that. I'm able to do work in this field now. I have a beautiful family, and, I've traveled all over the world, and it's honestly just because of that gift that my mom gave. So if you're even thinking about it, thank you. You're a hero, and you'll truly give Ellie her life back if you're thinking about donating.
Candace, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share all this information with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ba-boom, we back, baby. And how about that conversation? Ellie, amazing. Love her. We're going to find her a fucking kidney. And you out there, You are the one. You listening right now. You watching on YouTube right now. Your kidney is going to go into Ellie, and it's going to save her life because you have 2. She has none, basically, and you only need 1, really. So
And you're going to save it.
You're
going
gonna
to do
save
it.
her.
I actually got a text back from my mom and dad. My dad doesn't know his blood type, but my mom's AB. And so I'm sure I'm A+, but I'm going to get checked anyway.
Whatever.
And just check it out.
Want to hear
See.
a wild thing that
Tell me.
that didn't come out during that conversation with Ellie?
What
While
was it?
we were recording that, Kira, my lovely, sweet, love of my life, beautiful, beautiful honey bunny rabbit, was offset, and she got a text from her mom, and her blood type is technically a match. Universal donor. And so
But tons of people are universal donors.
yes, that's right. But so now Kira is going to go through the process of trying to figure out, is she a match considering the antibodies and all that shit. But here's the thing. There's chances that she's not, which means you watching this right now, you
And you.
could give your kidney to Ellie. And so we're hoping, again, back to the call to action. If you are someone who is willing to do this,
Do it.
fucking do it. And
Yeah.
and how sweet would that be if we got Ellie a kidney? I mean, it'd be great for us and the success of the show.
Yeah, we
like
can make it a
would-
TikTok.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
want this
Yeah.
podcast to fucking end, because there's a lot of things shifting and we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but we have a different format, and it's because we're scared.
So let's get into the wrap up here. Very exciting. Speaking of organ donation, it was making me think,
How simple it all is.
yeah. The history of like donation, organ transplant is pretty wild. But I was thinking like, how do you train someone for something like that?
Like to actually do it.
Yeah. Like how to fucking go in and pull a kidney out without fucking it up.
Right, like
Med
if there was no literature and I was to try to get Taylor's kidney out right now, like
What are the chances that you're gonna nail it?
You meant like
would I
how
be
did
successful?
they just dug around in people that they thought were throwaway humans.
Yeah,
what they-
like pigs or something.
Yeah.
That's dark.
That's what they did.
So, which led me down this rabbit hole, and I found something that I thought was A, hilarious, B, quite interesting. The world of simulation technology when it comes to healthcare. Okay, so I want to introduce you to Pediatric Hal S2225.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar.
Is Pediatric Hal. Okay.
Oh, wow. Pediatric Hal makes me
We are looking at a weird abstract looking like uncanny valley type of 3D model doll thing
Yeah, very uncanny valley.
of a like young redheaded
Mhm.
boyish looking figurine.
Yeah,
Can you
who
say, I don't think you can say redheaded.
looks
I think so,
who looks
yeah.
like the spawn of Satan might be within him. So Hal is
In a Johnny shirt.
He is the world's most advanced
Can't say
pediatric
Johnny shirt.
patient simulator. And basically Hal is like a lifelike doll crafted to provide immersive learning experiences for healthcare professionals. And so he has a bunch of like lifelike interactions with dynamic facial expressions and comprehensive clinical features. Here's just some of Hal's facial expressions. So you can see like consistent pain there.
Yeah.
I think at the bottom left, he looks maybe he looks cured. I don't know.
He looks like he's just saying, "My glasses,
Well, actually,
my glasses."
So would you believe it or not, Hal speaks.
yeah.
Yeah, let's check out Hal.
Oh no.
Hi, I'm Pediatric Hal. I can show you how I feel by moving my face and my eyes.
That's not real. That's not
I
real.
feel
That is real.
like that technology is behind.
No, this
it's
is
like
this
the-
is literally state of the art. Now, let me get into some of the stuff that actually comes with Hal because it is kind of impressive.
What about the girl from Ex Machina?
That's
That's a movie.
well, I mean, yeah, and that's also like military tech. That's like black budget underground. We're not going to see that for another 2 years.
But they have it now.
They have it. So the core purpose of integrating simulation technologies like Pediatric Hal into healthcare education it's huge. It can't be overstated. So it's about more than just practicing medical procedures. It's about fostering a culture of continuous learning and skill enhancement within a risk-free environment. You guys might be familiar with like simulation that exists in hospitals where they have actors come in and pretend.
I'm not familiar, but
Oh,
that
no?
sounds crazy.
Oh man, I go in. I get paid to go in and pretend that I have gonorrhea.
That is I'm not joking. This has been a dream job of mine. You are paid as an actor to go in. They give you a sort of sheet that gives you like, all right, these are your symptoms. This is how you're feeling. And then you just improv, and you have med students come in and they give you a full like sort of checkup, and they're trying to figure out what it is you have. And I've talked to people who do it, and they're like, man, sometimes you just like, you get so worked up and you just go over the top, and like, I've heard of like friends just like screaming in fucking pain, and
it's like Squid Game, so they execute the med students who get it wrong.
Should we do like a murder mystery style party that we host, but instead of there being a murder, there's just like patients that come in with like workups that need to be done.
It's not a bad idea.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, a little like murder or like vignette mystery.
So the thing is that with that element of simulation, you can't open them up. You can't like prick them. You can't, whatever. You can't like actually do shit to them. But that's where Hal comes in. So Hal's got the lifelike interactions and emotions. I mean,
very
lifelike is in quotations.
How tall is Hal?
Well, he's it's pediatric Hal. So he's 7'3".
He looks desk sized, like
actually, well, here, if you,
he looks like he just sits on a shelf.
So you have him on
He's
the right
that
here.
Big.
They have him legitimately hooked up to a ventilator. You can vent Hal.
He's fucking big. Like he's full size.
He's a fucking 10-year-old boy. Like he's the size of Hudson, my nephew.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know how much he weighs. So he's got interactive eyes and facial expressions. He has automated reactions, so he can turn his head, eyes upwards towards approaching subjects, enhancing realism and patient interaction. There's advanced clinical simulation. So he has dynamic lung compliance. So it offers true ventilator support for realistic respiratory care training. Because venting a patient is like an art.
You don't just jam it.
No, not. I mean, maybe if you're like a war medic, real patient monitoring support. So he's compatible with actual patient monitoring equipment to enable authentic practice settings. And then you can even get surgical and emergency interventions with him. So it includes features for practicing critical interventions using real instruments. So check this out. Hal can cry. He bleeds. So right here, we're watching a video. Hal is getting pricked for like a blood glucose test. He cries tears made of water. You can see him crying there. He has piss. He pisses.
Oh my God.
He's full of piss. And watch this. They're going. I mean, this could be Ellie. This could be Ellie right here. Watch.
Port like that.
They're cutting in and just tubing them. Look at that. Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. That is insane. It reminds me of. Did you guys ever have that class in high school where you have to take care of a baby?
I didn't do that, but
we did an egg.
So there's this class where I didn't take the class, but I remember
like
vividly
home ed
and so kids in school would get these like little babies that would like cry, and you'd have to like change their diapers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing
you had to fill it with dog shit.
You know the kids in your class
push the dog shit out.
that like can't do anything seriously, and you would see them with the babies, and they're like holding onto them by the feet and like dangling them up and down and shit.
Of a joint and just blowing it in
yeah, actually,
that's what you did in junior
and then
high, yeah.
and then I mean it's just a computer, so you can kind of like probably fucking do stuff to pass anyway, even though you're doing those things. It was really bad that they did that.
This is the beginning of. Like what happens when what happens when Hal
it got me thinking.
What happens when Hal
is fucking tired.
Starts to feel.
Yeah. Well,
what happens when the AI
I'm a real
starts
boy.
to know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you've just got this poor boy locked up, cut him open, shove a tube down his throat,
making him cry, making him piss,
give him diabetes.
What happens when he gets angry?
Yeah. Well, before we get into the potential risks associated with Hal, guess who has a Hal?
Who?
The IWK.
Really?
The Children's Hospital here in Halifax.
I think I'm afraid now.
IWK Health is an active participant in Nova Scotia's SimEd collaborative a network aimed at promoting simulation-based learning across the province by consolidating expertise and facilitating the sharing of practices. And it includes Nova Scotia Health, Dalhousie, Nova Scotia Community College, and together they kind of came together and bought a HAL.
We should have Hal on the podcast. And this new format allows for
that
it.
Would be
that
hilarious.
right?
Get Duncan Trussell to voice him.
Oh, that's a great
Get someone
HAL.
shove their hand up his ass and just have him speak.
How much do you
God.
think a HAL costs?
Ooh,
$160,000.
That sounds low.
let's see if it comes up. Pediatric HAL cost. A human patient simulator can range in price from $100 to $100,000. HAL cries
$100
and pisses.
What's $100? A blow up sex doll that
Yeah.
they just put a Johnny skirt on?
Probably. And even those can be more expensive than $100.
That's right. So yeah, my concern with HAL was what you were kind of mentioning there, because I don't know if anybody realizes this, but the original HAL, it didn't turn out so well.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
And we all know what happened to Dave. Well, actually, not Dave, but Dave's buddy. So that was, if you're not familiar, 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the best films of all time. That HAL was an AI, and that HAL didn't care for humans so much. And I was also thinking, you take that Ex Machina route, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when HAL starts to have feelings? I can tell you what's going to happen. I know exactly what the fuck's going to happen. And
Sex.
it's this.
That's what I was thinking. This is exactly what I was thinking.
Is that Chucky?
Like, yeah, you put a ventilator on me, we're going to vent you, brother.
Oh my god.
And this is actually a healthcare provider. I don't know if you can tell, it's a nurse.
Yep.
Oh,
We can't show this on YouTube.
that might,
We're gonna have to. Yeah, that's yeah.
Christ, this is, holy fuck.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely can't show that on YouTube.
that was insane. What Chucky was that? I think I stopped watching Chucky at Chucky's Bride or Bride of
The new reboot was amazing.
Chucky or
Well,
something.
guys, we just have to say that we're not really sure how much longer we'll be on YouTube for, but this is a good reminder that all of our episodes, for the time being,
are on
YouTube.
All of them.
So, again, folks, let's help save someone's life. All the links that can send you to where you need to go if you're interested are in the description of this episode, wherever you find it. And for everybody that's been along for this ride for the last almost decade, thank you so fucking much. This podcast means the world to us. We're not going anywhere.
It's only the beginning.
It is only the beginning.
well, it's like maybe I was gonna say midway, but that would only leave us like another 10 years.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
like maybe a quarter of the way.
Hey man, I'm gonna be living till I'm fucking 80 now. So
Yeah, true.
guys, my lung function's 87%.
That's insane.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're only 13% from me.
Let's go.
When you told
I
me
gotta
that,
get a fucking Garmin.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast so far. To all of the people who have popped over to our Discord channel, we appreciate you as well so much. To all of our patrons that have stuck around, we appreciate you so much. And to all the new listeners, welcome. We hope that we can provide you with a space to learn, to be inspired, and to have a little bit of fun. And we're really looking forward to this new sort of endeavor that we're taking on. One episode a week of really quality content. Wednesdays are our new release schedule. So, say goodbye to Mondays, say goodbye to Fridays. We're going to get you through that hump day, and hump your ears, hump your fucking ears right into
That's
the
our new slogan. Hump your
that's it.
ears.
And if you're feeling weary about this whole thing, just know that we really don't talk about Jeremy's cum that much at all anymore. It's
a non-issue now.
we've
Yeah,
covered it.
We will be talking about my cum a whole bunch when I decide to try to have a baby.
That'd be cool.
And we will cross.
But we won't be saying cum. We'll be saying sperm.
We will cross that very
Cummy bridge.
watery
Ew.
bridge when we come to it.
Do you think when they extract the sperm that's been in my balls for 35 years that it's
be
like
really
a
gooey?
lot thicker?
Well, it's not in your
Yeah,
balls
it's
for 30 years.
cobwebs.
It dies and renews every 3 months. You don't have the same.
No, I
sperm in
know
your
that,
balls
but I
as your
mean,
females.
there's got to be some residual kind of
Cobwebby
spunk,
cobwebs.
That just
Cobwebs.
that just made me think of that scene in Beau is Afraid when
This,
he ends up having
this,
sex and his
this,
balls are like the size of
Just huge,
basketballs.
yeah.
This episode will be difficult to title because now we really want to name it Residual Spunk, but
Yeah.
you know, it's probably got to be something about Ellie's
Ellie might
kidney,
not like
but
that, but
Yeah.
anyway,
it's our show. Ellie, not
thanks.
yours.
Thanks again to the people who helped make this show happen. We really love you, Jeff Lonis, everybody else. You know, thanks.
Yeah, and if you want to support the podcast, come on over to Discord. And if you want to be on the show, or you have someone that you think would be great to be a guest on the show, go to our website. There's a great place there to sign up and do that. And
Well, you took my part, and I
did.
I can't remember if you said
this
to
is
rate-
all part of the new format. Go
I
ahead.
can't remember if
Go
you
ahead.
said to rate and review the podcast, but like
Sure,
it's
do it.
Like rate and review it, and if you've got a really
And
nasty
subscribe.
rating, we always read like really nasty ratings on the show. So if you got like
That's
a
it.
real stinger, throw that up there.
Let it rip.
And,